I won't take as much time as I would like on this issue, but I wanted to say a couple of things because I was actually on Parnell Square last Thursday when this happened. I heard the screams of the children outside Gaelscoil Coláiste Mhuire. It very quickly became apparent how much distress and panic there was on the street at the time. And when the emergency services arrived, I saw the firemen in particular pinning down the man who was struck with a helmet by the Deliveroo driver. As a father of only 6 months, it's such a distressing event, and I think all of us, first and foremost, are thinking of the families who were struck that day by a mindless act, an act which I have to say is not predictable, and to suggest otherwise is, I think, really very unfair on the people who are expected to read the minds of people who may who are first of all not predictable, but secondly may have other difficulties that have caused them to behave in a certain way. It's appalling, and actually I think the last speaker said that the Gardaí are there to protect us. That is exactly what I saw them doing on Parnell Square last week. They arrived at the scene, they put order on it, they put protection in. They were frustrated in that regard by a small element of people who came into town, and again it's been suggested that that was entirely predictable. As if, for example, weeks earlier there hadn't been similar calls on social media that didn't turn out the same way. So again, I don't accept the premise that this is all something that was totally foreseeable and should have been predicted. Nobody's happy with how it got out of control. Nobody's happy with the fact that that small element, and they are not all far right, there's a few people directing it, but there's a criminal element, I think, as well, that took advantage of a situation. And I think, as has been said by other speakers, the people who were targeted were the same first responders, the Gardaí, who attended at the scene and who were molested, abused, attacked, assaulted by people who will, I hope, face the full rigours of the law in that regard. But I don't think it's fair to say that that it was predictable, or that somehow there should have been a huge stock of public order police sitting in vans around Dublin City Centre in the event that the calls from the small number of people would actually be responded to by people not from inner city Dublin. And I think there has been a slight unfairness in the characterisation that this is all Dublin people, because we know that it isn't. They came from other parts of Dublin, they came from other counties around the country as well. All of it disgusted, right-minded people, and everybody is appalled by what happened. I think to then shift the burden of responsibility for that behaviour to the Gardaí, to the Garda Commissioner, to you, Minister, is ridiculous. If a crime is committed, that is not the fault of the people who are there to police crime. And I think it's unreasonable to talk about it those two. And it's far too easy to let those people off the hook. They bear responsibility for their behaviour, and they will face the rigours of the law in that regard. In terms of what the answers are, I don't think that's easy either. And I think one speaker earlier said that this has been ignored for so long. And again, I know, having worked with you on this issue, that that is patently untrue. I know, going back over a year, that you secured specific budgetary provisions for extra Gardaí in the street, most of which have gone to Dublin, specific provisions for civilians within Garda Síochána to get guards out of stations where they want to be, on the beat, solving crime, policing the way they signed up to. And of course, in recent times as well, the extra allocation of over €10 million for Gardaí in Dublin. Like, these are reactions that came ahead of this, and yet some people, some parties, seek to politicise this and to make political gains from it, and that is obvious, and I think people see that for what it is. I also want to remark, and on speeches in this House from members of this House that have, I think, been, whether they recognise it or not, sympathetic to the elements who seek to sow the seeds of hate in this country. People who bolster the arguments of mindless idiots online who propagate a narrative that is false, that is wrong and grossly unfair. And I have to say, speaking to friends of mine who look different to Irish people, who look different to people who are ethnically Irish, I would hate to be in their shoes. I cannot imagine how difficult it must be for somebody who sounds different or looks different in this Ireland, notwithstanding the fact that they contribute a great deal to this country, more than many of our so-called native Irish people, or whatever way you want to describe that. The steps that we need to take now is to make sure those people know that they are wanted, They are welcomed. They are part of our society. They are our friends, our neighbours, our work colleagues, and we want them here. That is something that we must do, as well as making sure the streets are safe and as well as making sure that people feel safe in the streets. We need to address these issues in whatever way it needs to be done, Minister. The message needs to go out very clearly to people who come here, and the comment was made earlier that if they stopped helping us and providing assistance to our economy and working with us and taking on jobs, we would be absolutely in a very, very bad place. We need to send a message out to those people that they are part of our community and we welcome them as such.
Senator Rappel.